have the great privilege of introducing my good friend Pat Griggs. I think Pat and I maybe met 5 years ago or so. She really helped us, Kennedy, with his mom when she was diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's. And Pat recommended this wonderful book as to help us to understand what was going on. And I'm eternally grateful to you. It made a world difference. Now, for the good stuff. Pat is a native of Alabama. She currently lives in Johnson City by education. She is a nurse. She is also a certified midwife. She has been active for many years in the UU. You served as president of the trustees in Gray, correct? And she has, as I said, been in local churches. She's also served at the district level as well as nationally. And Pat's last position before she retired, she was the director of Safe Passage, which is a sexual assault and domestic violence shelter in Johnson City for women. And she has also directed the in-home caregiving program. And she continues to serve as a volunteer in the Department of Spiritual Health and Cultural Diversity with Ballot Health. And she has done so many more things, and I'm sure that she's going to share these with you. Welcome, Pat. Oh, thank you, Weva. I thank all of you for your generosity and hospitality that I've already experienced this morning. You know, I remember a long time ago when I think I was on the district board, there was an organization forming up here from where I was in Johnson City. And I think I remember that you met in different places, maybe porched up for a while, bought some property, and began affiliation with the association. I was so glad to hear that. And then we started building, and am I getting feedback?
I'm trying to find up.
You can adjust my just
there you go.
Okay.
Now we'll see if is that feedback? Okay. So I want to thank you for inviting me. I almost had a wreck on the highway when I'm driving down the road and suddenly on this big marquee it says Pat Griggs. Such shots. Now, I always tell people if you can't understand me besides the feedback, there might be some reasons. I have a jaw joint disorder, and I have a splint in my mouth. And as she said, I'm from Alabama. You know what Reese Witherspoon said about that, right? You know your passport comes out here. So if you can't understand me, okay. On March the 12th of this year, the New York Times reported that by February of 2017, somebody named Masha Sedgwick had made peace with the idea that she would never, ever, ever do justice. It had been 5 years since she'd been raped by someone she met online in Tucson. And the police had just brushed it off as a he said, she said standoff. So for years her rape kit had sat untested. So finally she decided she'd try to move on with her life. So with 2 children and a husband, she was trying to move on. Now I want to tell you about stuff today, and it may be challenging for someone as we explore these topics together. Now I'm glad we can explore them together because we certainly can't deal with them alone. But it is a difficult topic, and it may not be appropriate for some of you. So if there are some of you needing to be excused now, please feel free to do so. But I want to thank you for being here as we support each other and learn together. I want to acknowledge there may be survivors in our midst, and I've done the best I can in this service to keep from triggering you while still doing as much awareness level as raising as possible. It is my deepest hope that you find this service another step toward understanding and maybe even healing. And I apologize to you in advance if it is triggering. Now please let me know. It is not my intention. So today I want to tell you some sexual assault, domestic violence data, and then I want to tell you what a survivor may need from you and me. Now, if you don't know someone who has had an experience of sexual violence, then you may not be paying attention. And that's easy to do because it's very, very hard to sit in the presence of such pain. I'm sure that there are not many people in your life who have shared these stories with you because we hate to tell our truths because we don't want to traumatize people that we love. Or we may open ourselves up to this vulnerability and not be believed. So making ourselves visible is hard. And there may be some of us here. The fact sheets from the Center for Disease Control and Human Rights Campaign paint a startling picture. 1 in 5 women are raped. 1 in 3 women experience some form of contact sexual violence in their lifetime. 1 in 71 men are raped, and 1 in 6 men have experienced sexual violence in their lifetime. 1 in 3 and 1 in 6. That means that you do know someone who has been sexually assaulted. There are many of us, actually. 1 in 3, 1 in 6. Think about your neighborhood, your workplace, your family, close friends. The Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network says someone is sexually assaulted every 98 seconds. 88% of the assaults on children are not reported. Think about that. Think what we're doing to children. Now, I looked at Sullivan County, Tennessee, because I couldn't find Washington County, Virginia. I couldn't find the Virginia statistics. I even sent away for it and never got it. But in Sullivan County, Tennessee, which is next door to you, violent sex offenses are up nearly 20%. Almost all perpetrators are not to the survivor. This thing of stranger danger is mostly a myth. About a third are family members. Of the 169 reported offenses last year in Sullivan County, 144 of those were people under 18. 169, 144 were people under 18 years of age. Only a third of the rape cases we said are reported. Why do we not report? Well, just this month, Senator McSally, remember that in the news, said that she was raped while she was in the Air Force by a superior officer. She didn't report. Here's what I've learned. Guilt, that woulda, coulda, shoulda. Shame, shame. And fear. We'll talk about fear again in a minute. So who wouldn't be depressed? Who wouldn't be trying to be depressed? Carrying around that. Changes your rank. If it is reported, remember what Senator McSally said? That she feared that she would lose her job or at least that she wouldn't get a promotion, or that she would be demoted for some innocuous reason. Reporting may not be investigated. There are hundreds of thousands of rape kits sitting untested in this country right now. If they are tested, fewer than 4 in 10 are prosecuted. If it goes to trial, the survivor is often re-traumatized because the defense attorneys try to blame and shame him or her on the stand. Most people expect this. Now, people, the general public, at least, think that about 50% of the rape that is reported is made up. In fact, less than 6% of the charges are false. Less than 6%, not 60%. But then finally, why is it not reported? Because if there is a conviction, the perpetrator may get a very light sentence or smack on the wrist. I mean, I already see that in the news recently. Especially if it's people of privilege with other accused. Now, women are told several things about why they should try to protect themselves from being raped. Carry your keys in your hand when you go outside. You know, I do. When I go outside, particularly at night, from a store to the house or go to the car, restaurant to the car. Cover your drinks at all times if you're out drinking. Don't get drunk around men. Don't walk alone at night. Don't wear provocative clothing, whatever that is. I don't know what that is. And then carry a can of pepper spray with you. Actually, a friend of mine who is a chaplain has recent experience. She went out and bought a little canister of pepper spray that she attached to her keys that now are permanent part of her cat. Can we please just urge boys and men not to sexually assault or abuse? Frederick Douglass said, said, it is easier to build strong boys than it is to repair broken men. Now, all of his life, my sons had lived with me. And he was in college, and I was up at the UUA when we were still on Michigan Hill. He was in college there. And he brought his new girlfriend over to introduce to me, and I was being, chatty. And I said, so how'd you meet? She said, well, I was at his show. And if you don't know, in their senior year, they were theater people. Everybody has to run a show once, and Kevin, is my son, had gotten the honor of being the first one to run a show, and she was his lighting designer. And when she said that, Kevin was very anxious to say, but Mom, I didn't think you have to know. I didn't say anything to her. I didn't even let her know I was interested until after the show was over. All I could think about was this and this. It sounds like you know what this and this is, because for a long time that's how I talked about power, especially in relationship to work or even in personal relationships. And this is, to me, the partnership way, when there's equalness in the relationship. And that this represents power over, and this represents power under, or submissiveness. And so he wanted to make sure that he didn't have some power over her because he was the shipwriter and the student production. And that she would feel equally okay to say yes or no to him when the show was over. Now, with that fanfare, even noticed the Department of Justice's Violence Against Women last April made big changes into their definition of domestic violence. The previous definition included critical components of the phenomenon that a lot of experts recognize as domestic abuse, a pattern of deliberate behavior, the dynamics of power and control, behaviors that encompass physical or sexual violence as well as forms of emotional, economic, psychological abuse. But now the Trump Justice Department redefined that quietly. And now the only thing that can define a domestic violence situation is if it's a felony or misdemeanor crime. So, for example, a woman whose partner isolates her from her family and friends and everybody else that she cares about, who monitors her every move, who belittles and berates her, or who denies access to money to support her or her children, that is not domestic violence anymore in the eyes of the Trump Justice Department. It makes no sense for an office charged with finding and implementing solutions to the problem of domestic violence rather than merely prosecuting individuals. They are the source of a majority of the funding for most domestic violence shelters in our, we didn't get a list of those printed, did we? In our neighborhoods here, in Bristol and Kingsport and Johnson City and to my knowledge, Abingdon does not have a shelter. I know which one equipped it. Yes, there is. We still do our work in the shelters. Do you think there's one?
There's youth alternatives. I'm not sure if they...
I don't think they do. That may be wrong. A huge part of trauma-informed care is understanding adverse childhood experiences. We call those ACEs, the ACE score is. There's some current research assessing whether there's a correlation between students choosing to go into the helping professions and their ACEs scores. Now, my experience working with student chaplains over the past 15 years is that each female minister to a person, after working with the whole group for a year, so some of the men too, but each woman would come to me and say, I want to tell you something I have never told anyone else before. Now, when someone tells you that, you want to sit up in your seat or you want to lean forward because you know you're about to stand on holy ground. That they're trusting you with something that they've never trusted anyone else with. Now, we like to talk. We have opinions or experiences that we want to share. When someone's personal, physical boundary has been violated, that person tends to develop a lack of trust for others. That extends to close friends and church members as well. And even that which is holy, which they consider holy. So when he or she comes to you, they are operating out of a vantage point of distrust, even for you as a close friend. So since trust isn't easy, it's important that you take the time to build a relationship and set a supportive environment, if possible, but you take it where you get it, and wherever you hear this, they have deemed that's a safe place to be, to share this with you. You want to let them know explicitly that it will be confidential. You need to be believing them and not blaming them, no matter what the circumstances are event. Now, I know we are all integrated enough to know that if we're made a fool of, because this is one of the 6%, that's okay. We did our part. We listen. Okay? And like I said, an uncluttered, quiet environment if possible, but you take it where you get it. Do not touch him or her unless they make the first effort. They have huge family issues. Even avoid sitting too close. And you judge by them. You want to let them know you're paying attention and getting in too far, and they go, you know you've gone too far. So back up. Let them set the parameters. Let them set the pace. we'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. Avoid questions. And I'm going to do some mocking questions, just to make an example. If it's the right person that's telling you about this, what were you wearing? I don't care what you're wearing, you know, she's sharing some holy stuff with you. If it's a domestic violence thing, and he slung the food against the wall again and grabbed her by the hair and said, well, why did you cook this time? You see what I'm saying? Don't matter what it is. Listen to the story. Even the minute little questions. Even if it's not clear to you, just sit there and listen. It'll get clear. If it doesn't, that's okay. You're providing her a place, or him a place to start talking, to start being unloading. Attend to behavior. This may not be the time to do eye-to-eye contact. That's pretty penetrating. But do look at them. Do let them know you are attending. Normalize your response. You may be shocked. That's what we hear today. But reassure them that their thoughts or their feelings, that their physical symptoms are a result of traumatic stress, and that is normal and natural. So it's normal and natural response. Otherwise, they've just stuffed it all down, and they're not feeling anything. Even their feeling of not feeling normal is normal. Rage, anger, even toward God, or that which is holy that they think is God, and their fantasies of revenge are normal. And it is imperative to them to let them know that you're there with them, they're normal, and you're going to continue to walk with them. Where they feel shamed by your reactions, they may try to hide their feelings rather than discussing them. And that may be the last time in their whole entire life they ever tried to share with anybody, because it's just too disgusting, it's just too shameful, it's just too whatever. And then don't ever say, I know what you're feeling. You don't. Even if you are a survivor yourself, we all react to these traumatic events differently. They know what they're feeling. You know what you're feeling. And it may not be the same. So don't tell them that you know. But do empathic listening. Listen with genuine compassion, empathy, and non-judgmental attitude, and try to sit in as open stance as you can. Providing a safe place free of judgment allows them to explore their own thoughts and their own feelings and their own fears. This is their beginning of trying to regain some sense of control and establishing meaning in their lives again. Listen, really listen with your whole heart and soul. Listen to what they're not saying as well. The part that they're avoiding talking about may be the most painful aspect of this whole experience for them. They may get around to it if you can continue the relationship. The gift of silence is so very precious. Don't be afraid of it. Again, allow the survivor to set the pace. Don't interrupt or feel that you must fill those silent spaces with words. Invoke the practice of the pregnancy of silence. You know, midwives just talk about that. Midwifery first. So it's okay. Let them speak first, because when you speak, that becomes directive. And they may be working on something else, and you distract them. They're processing. Allow them to be, and allow the space for them. Be present. Be attentive. And don't argue. You can do this. How's that sound? That's very argumentative, right? They're not there. They can't hear that. They're not there yet. How about, well, everything works for the best. Well, this sure didn't. There you go. That's over. Listen. Respect them enough to know that they have the answers. Their own answers deep down inside. Allow them the time to process and space to process all of this until they can find their own answers. And then get their answers. They're not their answers. If they work out, that's good. They're empowered. If not, they're responsible for going back and reprocessing it and not blaming you. Well, Pat told me I just this, and this. They go, Pat, it's her fault. I'm speaking American. But when you're doing this, think about what you felt when you felt that you were at your wit's end and you were about to lose it or had lost it. How did that feel to you? Now don't project that on him or her. But that's empathy. How would I feel if I had that? For the worst thing that's ever happened to me like that. Oh, be comfortable with tears. There'll be a lot of them. Don't try to stop them. You know that a human can only cry so much at one time. And then they'll stop. And they'll go, oh, I'm so sorry. But that's it. And then they'll move on. Let me cry again. That's okay too. Be comfortable sitting in the presence of tears. And don't try to fix it. Please, I speak it through. Remember, they're experiencing fear and anger and shame, and depression, self-hate. How can I ever forgive myself? So you're going to provide safety, security, the ministry of presence, some structure, patience, love and respect, and that includes some cultural, historical, and gender understanding. Remember, and I was just listening to WTS and this morning about a queer woman and her sexual assault. So include LGBTQ people as well as, well, this is a man, then a man hit on it, so it must be a straight man. Or this is a woman, a man or a woman hit on her, so this must be a straight woman. Just be wherever they are. Now, then, if this session comes to a conclusion and there's another one, or if there isn't, check in on these people regularly. Just send them a text, checking in to see how the day's landing around you. Just calling to see how you're doing. Would you like to go for coffee? They're safe. Let them know that you care. And always remember, don't let the trauma, though, that they're experiencing be about you. You're there to provide the love and support for them. Now, if this is a new event that's just happened and it's cascading down around you, you may need to make some referrals. And I brought my water up here somewhere. You may need to make a trauma referral, and I think most of the hospitals now have a nurse who can do a trauma kit. Most, I know in the Johnson City Medical Center, and I think in the BRMC too, you don't have to, Persuasion Medical Center, you don't have to go through the emergency department. You can go through another door to get in to have the rape kit done. And there is a specially trained nurse there to provide that. If it's domestic violence, there is a list of shelters, or you can call the 800 National Domestic Violence Hotline, and they'll put her in touch with the nearest, or him. And we have men in our shelter as well as women. Just want you to know that. The nearest shelter. And you can call the nearest shelter, and if they don't have space for you, or if it's in your hometown, and the abuser is a police person, and who might be able to know where the shelter is, even though they're held in tight secret, then that person who answers the hotline locally can tell you, well, there's one in Cookville, or there's one, somewhere, let's see, Virginia, up in, Middle Virginia, Northern Virginia, or somewhere, so, or Indiana. And I've had referrals all the way from Washington State to come here to get, or Chicago, and these were mostly men, to get away from the perpetrator who had their Social Security number. One was a veteran, and it's like a Social Security number, so she could call all the VAs and find out if he's getting treatment there, if he's getting his medication, if it's got work. Professional advocates may need to be called in, or professional therapists. And you can make referrals at the end of whatever time you have with this person. And eventually then you'll want to process stuff like, I feel spoiled, I feel dirty, I feel like, oh, I need to go back up to go, it's a new event. Try to get him or her to not bathe, just want to wash it off. I mean, this morning I was in the shower trying to wash off all the tired, all the sleepy, They want to wash all of the event away. Don't. We need all of this stuff there to, whether it's bruising and that from domestic violence or whether it's rape or whatever, we need to collect evidence, and it takes a long time to collect all the evidence. But may want to process with you. Do I press charges? Do I forgive my attacker? And if it's most religions say that forgiveness is the most important thing, we probably need to figure out how to do that too. Do I forgive my attacker? How? I just want to take faults or smash your boobs or whatever it was. If they're pregnant, do they get an abortion? And so where here? Why did this happen to me? Well, now, we all know that there are no answers to the why question, no matter what it is. But they, again, have to process that for themselves. They can't get used to that. That just sounds like that just sounds like a past answer. So, again, every trauma is different, so every person's recovery is different. We would be remiss not to acknowledge the powerful impact that a spiritual community, we Emily prayed this morning, has on us, especially on gender roles. And I also believe that the church should be the ideal institution to combat myths and challenge norms that both allow and ignore sexual and domestic abuse. A lot of these people may be coming from mainline religions, particularly Christian around here, who are just don't feel condemned to hell. And you may be the only light that you talk to in your neighborhoods, in your colleagues at work, in your family, wherever they are. Openness and attitudes that allow victims to openly share their stories can be a source of empathy for those who have been uninformed, and offer a glimpse of hope for those who are secretly suffering. Creating a safe spiritual environment without judgment can give victims room to begin the healing process. Ultimately, where sincere expressions of love and grace abound, victims may find some restoration and redemption, and only then can they begin to successfully see themselves as survivors. Now, remember Miss Sudbett who had been raped at the beginning of the story? Well, there she was with her family trying to move on. There's a knock on the door. It was a detective. After 5 years, her kit had finally been tested, and they had found a match in the database of criminal records. The man had a name, Nathan Lowe. I found a big. Then she said, my chapter was reopened. Having my kit finally tested was a catalyst for hope. 5 years, no more. Her case is one of thousands that have gotten a second look. States across the country, including Virginia, have passed legislation to address the problem of untested rape kits. The Justice Department, surprise, followed suit and started its own initiative committing $150 million to enhance this effort to test untested rape kits. In February, Mr. Loeb was convicted of sexually assaulting the subject and 6 other women. She got to testify against him at trial. So what do you feel now? How does it feel to see that this particular home finally had some justice? Here is the hope and will work for us. Let us increase our pressure on our states to test all of the backlog kits. And let us always be open to demonstrate